On today's show, Ron Scherer returns for a Minnesota-bound special all about one of our state's greatest conservation achievements, the wild turkey. Turns out hanging with springtime turkeys can be a most addictive pastime. Gobble gobble, we talk turkeys.
Minnesota Bound, presented by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems.
Hi everybody, Ron Scherer here with a special edition of Minnesota Bound. It's all about Minnesota and its wild turkeys. Now if you know me, you know I've been hooked on wild turkeys for a half century, and I'm hoping that after you see this show, you'll understand why, and maybe you'll get hooked too.
On an April morning in 1978, a new chapter in Minnesota's history began at the crack of dawn. It was opening day of the state's wild turkey hunting season, the first ever held since Minnesota became a state in 1858. Only 411 Minnesotans were issued permits to hunt in two regions of southeast Minnesota, and only 94 gobblers were bagged. At the time, unbeknown to all Minnesotans, was this: spring turkey hunting can be an unabashed addiction. What's more, this bird, officially the eastern wild turkey subspecies, was destined to be one of Minnesota's greatest conservation achievements. This is the story. It begins with the bird itself. Our wild turkey is not the butterball turkey served at Thanksgiving, although they're related. Our domestic turkey originated from wild birds captured in North America more than 400 years ago and then shipped to Europe. The name turkey was given because it was mistakenly thought the birds had come from the country of Turkey. Today, being a turkey infers stupidity. Don't say that to a wild turkey.
Oh boy. For something that has a pea-sized brain, it can be so smart sometimes and so dumb other times. They've made a lot of and very intelligent people look pretty stupid in the spring hunting, as you may well know and I know. We've had a lot of experiences, and the hunters would just shake their heads and said, how can they make me look so stupid?
One reason is the bird is designed for survival. With eyes as sharp as an eagle's and placed on each side of the head, a slight twist of the head allows almost 360-degree vision. The bird's ability to hear is, in one word, acute. A gobbler needs to hear a hen's call, and the hen has to hear a gobbler's call, sometimes at great distances. Good hearing is needed for gathering in flocks or finding mates to reproduce. Despite its size, hens average 10 pounds, gobblers 17 to 20 pounds or more, a wild turkey can run 25 miles per hour and fly at 55 miles per hour. Adding up the senses of a wild turkey also explains why a hunt for a gobbler is so addictive. You could say it's a X-rated pursuit. In the spring, gobblers gobble to attract hens for mating, and hens chirp or yelp to attract male company or other turkeys. Enter the human hunter. If you've learned the language of wild turkeys, the hunting game is to imitate the sounds of a lonely hen in search of a little springtime hanky-panky in the woods. On my slate call, it's possible to imitate a variety of hen talk, all aimed to entice a gobbler into shooting range. If that sounds provocative, the pseudo-turkey conversation doesn't always end in the hunter's favor. According to nature's plan, the hen is supposed to seek the gobbler when he gobbles. If she doesn't appear, he may wander off with his mouth shut. When the gobbler can't resist her call, the moment he appears is a sight to behold. Added up, the springtime woods, the turkey conversations, the sight of feathered grandeur strutting to impress a hen or your hen decoy, well, that explains why more than 63,000 Minnesotans went forth to outwit a gobbler in the year 2020. Some of us escaped to the woods to avoid a contagious virus. Others sought the gobbler's call and came down with a different contagious bug, turkey hunting.
Coming up next, how it all began. Find out why turkeys love Minnesota habitat.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems, Star Bank, All Seasons Garage Door, and by the Minnesota DNR.
Welcome back. You know, now that we see turkeys literally all over in Minnesota, we tend to forget that the fact that they're here is one of Minnesota's greatest conservation achievements.
The wild turkey is only native to North America. While it's generally believed the bird also roamed in extreme southern Minnesota, historical evidence is unclear. If turkeys were native, we do know the birds disappeared from Minnesota's landscape in the late 1800s. Tim Lyons, DNR Upland Research Scientist, explains.
A combination of forest clearing as well as just overhunting throughout the 1800s sort of led to their extirpation throughout from Minnesota. There were efforts to reintroduce turkeys at various points in the 1920s and the 60s, but none of them were really successful. And it wasn't until 1971 we transplanted some turkeys from Missouri.
The deal was Missouri traded one wild turkey for 3 Minnesota ruffed grouse. By 1973, Houston County was stocked with 29 Missouri birds. It's tempting to say the rest is history, but don't tell that to Gary Nelson.
We started trapping and releasing birds in winter of 76, 77. We were just hired as general laborers for the winter, and half the birds we trapped, we would relocate to other areas in the state, in the southeast, and the other half we radio marked and released again at the release site in Houston County, and also some in the Whitewater Wildlife area.
There was one problem, however. DNR didn't have a turkey budget.
Leg band, 3144.
And we really had no money at all for rocket netting equipment, for vehicles or gas or anything.
In 1977, a small group of Minnesotans formed the state's first chapter of the National Wild Turkey Federation and held fundraising banquets to underwrite the trap and transplant program.
I would like to give credit to some of the early state chapter presidents, such as yourself and John, guys like Bob Nibel and John Clark and John Beard, Al Huseman down in Caledonia, Dave Malke from Winona, and the list goes on and on.
Gary Nelson and countless others spent countless hours and days hiding near trapping sites, waiting for birds to wander in and fire the trap nets. Nelson figures he moved upwards of 5,000 birds into new habitats. Today, wild turkey flocks are common in parts of northern Minnesota despite cold and snow conditions.
We had some research in our office that one of the previous scientists conducted in the 90s showing that as long as they're getting enough food, these birds can survive in temperatures up to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
In the late 70s, we did lose some birds. We had a couple winters back to back that were really hard on the birds. We had a lot of snow, deep powdery snow, and cold weather, and the birds just weren't able to move around much. And they sat on roosts for days on end. And we lost some birds to mainly predation, great horned owls.
Right now, our goal is focused on maintaining a healthy population and increasing hunting opportunities.
Twin City residents also discovered wild turkeys don't mind living in the suburbs. A pleasant surprise to some city folks, but a nuisance to others. Call it the consequences of success. No matter, Minnesota's passion for having and hunting wild turkeys shows no signs of waning. Consider the growth of the National Wild Turkey Federation.
We're up to 85 chapters currently in Minnesota, right around 10,000 members. 10,000 members is pretty good for a sport that only has 50,000 licensed turkey hunters in Minnesota. The mission of the NWTF is conservation of the wild turkey and the preservation of our hunting heritage. So it's a twofold mission. I don't have to pull the trigger to enjoy turkey hunting. Just sharing that gobble, sharing what I know about the habits of the wild turkey. That's where it's at for me.
Hold on to him for just a minute there, Donnie.
We just have to shake our heads and say, this is just unbelievable. We'd never, in our wildest imaginations, would have pictured this.
Still ahead, the original Thanksgiving most likely included wild turkey. We'll peek in the oven next.
Closed captioning provided by Treasure Island Resort and Casino.
Coming up, a lot of people don't know that the wild turkey played quite a role in America's history, especially when the Pilgrims first landed. There's some question about whether wild turkeys were in the first Thanksgiving meal, but they've been in a lot of meals ever since.
When the first Thanksgiving dinner was served in 1621, chances are wild turkey was on the table, along with venison and wild fowl, ducks and geese. What is certain, wild turkeys were present in the Massachusetts woodlands around the Plymouth colony. In 1863, President Lincoln declared Thanksgiving as a national holiday. By then, having turkey on the table was a growing tradition that continues today. While the wild turkey has led a rather non-controversial life, there is a charming story about Ben Franklin's campaign to honor the bird as our national emblem instead of the bald eagle. Actually, Ben Franklin never voiced opposition in Congress when the eagle was chosen in 1782. However, he did write a letter to his daughter noting that the bald eagle is a bird of bad moral character, a bird that does not get his living honestly and is too lazy to fish for himself. The wild turkey, Franklin opined, was a much more respectable bird, a bird of courage, although a little vain and silly. Today, a turkey hunter might add a wild turkey is predictably unpredictable, except on the dinner table. Being a wild bird with little fatty tissue, cooking the bird is often challenging to amateur chefs.
So those 3 B's, first of all, brine, butter, and bag.
Overcooked, and the breast can be tough and dry.
350 degrees.
Cooked just right, and it's the turkey taste we've come to love.
See
right, Laura?
how nice and moist that turkey breast is.
heaven. That's what it is. So good.
Straight ahead, a wild turkey love story, 50 years in the making and still going strong.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Oreo Cookies and Ritz Snacks, Hewitt Docks, Lifts and Pontoon Lakes, Coors Light, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
You know, I'm fond of saying that chasing the wild turkey, learning how to call them and hunt them, is very addictive. And the reason I know that is because I got addicted.
I met my first wild turkey in South Dakota's Black Hills on an April morning in 1967. One shot, and I was hooked. So began my infatuation with this native bird that has continued for more than a half century. There's something about springtime and wild turkeys that, once you have experienced gobbles and hen clucks in the morning light, you become an addict with no cure. Frankly, the bird changed my life. In 1974, I helped start a turkey hunting camp in the Black Hills, known as Turkey Track Club. Dozens of Minnesota hunters came to the camp to discover the joys of turkey hunting in South Dakota, something not available at the time in Minnesota. Later, those hunters joined me to launch the first Minnesota chapter of the National Wild Turkey Federation. I was voted president. We raised thousands of dollars to finance DNR's trap and transplant operation, the program that started the turkey boom. Over the years, my turkey passion has led me to other turkey haunts, such as Florida's swamps, where I hunted with a Seminole Indian guide. Yes, the afternoon heat in the Florida swamp made me sleepy. Darn. The turkeys won that round. The turkeys in Mississippi also ain't easy. Gosh, turkeys even led me to the big island of Hawaii. Aloha. However, the highlight of my turkey hunting adventures revolves around my daughters Simone and Laura and grandson Jake. I will never forget Simone's first bird, and she hasn't either, returning time and again to pursue gobblers. Next up, daughter Laura, who, in the low light of dawn, smacked a nice tom, her first. She too has caught turkey fever and continues the passion.
It feels awesome. Wild turkey, honestly, is one of my
Lastly, grandson Jake, at age 15, pulled the trigger on his first bird as we sat shoulder to shoulder to witness the moment.
Let's go.
There was great joy in the woods, and for Grandpa and grandson, a hunting memory forever made. So, thank you, the grandest of all game birds. Thank you for leading me to sunrises in the woods and gobbler songs at dawn. Thank you for the yelps, purrs, and putts, the thrill of talking turkey. Best of all, thank you for creating moments to cherish.
I was with Simone's first turkey and your first turkey.
Moments worthy of passing on to the next generation of Minnesotans.
Well, that's our special. I hope now we've all gained a greater appreciation for the bird. Bill and Laura, your hosts, will be back next week for Minnesota Bound. In the meantime, remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors, introduce them to the wild turkey. I'm Ron Schara.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433.